Welcome to this week's episode, baseball family. It is retirement season. We are going to talk about all kinds of frustrations and then what we've been waiting for, the playoff primer. 9 Plus Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together. Welcome to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast, baseball family. I'm one of your hosts. They call me Brig, and over on the other side of me, over there. Where is he? There's the Brad Master. How are you, Brad?
Present.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Good.
Well, that's fantastic. Lot to cover. A lot more than we thought. It felt like a slow news week. It felt like a slow
news weekend because, I feel like we covered like the big news on Thursday.
Yeah.
Because of the big weekend and everything like that. So it felt like there wasn't a whole lot today, but we managed to find some stuff and some stuff happened.
Right. It's
that
pretty
we can
cool.
talk about. So
before we do that, I wanted to let everybody know that if you have listened to the show at all, you know that we love hats. We love caps. And our favorite caps are made by New Era. From spring training through the postseason, Bush League to the bigs, New Era cap is the official headwear of Major League Baseball. One of our favorite episodes every year is ranking the newest minor league Copa hats. And now we have the ability to bring you 15% off every New Era cap you buy. So go to neweracap.com/baseball together. Or use code baseball together at checkout. That's one word, baseball together. So again, use code baseball together, no spaces, at neweracap.com/baseball together for 15% off your order. There are some exclusions apply, but jump in the comments, baseball family, and let us know which caps you'll be buying. Brad, did you check out the new fall flannel collection?
The fall flannel? No, but I saw one the other day. It was a really unique color.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of them looked really, really, really nice.
Bro, the fall flannel collection, I should get an overlay up because it's that good. Why don't you jump in here? No, you find a fall flannel example and I'll talk about this. Baseball family, we are saddened by the news that Tim Wakefield has passed away. He was 57 years old. The news came out on Thursday or Friday that he was dealing with some health problems. The news came about in a less than desirable way. Former teammate dropped the announcement, kind of spoke out of turn without the family's permission. So if you heard some of that news, that seems to be the case. But Sunday was the official passing of Tim Wakefield. 57 years old is far too young to have lost anybody. And more details, I'm sure, will be forthcoming. This is very much the extent of what we know at this point. So if you're, whatever it is that you do, send up a prayer for the Wakefields. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Managerial changes. This is the time of year where managers get fired or step away. More often than not, they get fired if they're not retiring. A couple of names that you need to know about. Gabe Kapler, 4 years with the Giants. He has now been fired. He's not stepping away. He's been fired. My fiance is determined that he take up a career in modeling rather than.
Did she see that TikTok breaking down the Giants and what a manager does in baseball? And it was all directed towards Gabe Kapler.
Yeah, it was so funny. And all his different little like smolder looks or whatever they were calling him. Absolutely hilarious.
And apparently he had a doppelganger on his staff who
really,
somebody this made it on Instagram where somebody said that he would bring another version of himself so that he could outvote the pitcher on coming out of the game. Gabe Kapler would then have 2 votes in the circle instead of just one.
Right. That's really funny. Buck Showalter, after 2 seasons with the New York Mets, has been let go. He's been fired. Dismissed might be a better word. And by 2 seasons, we mean a cup of coffee. That's how it has felt with Buck at the helm. It feels very, very short-lived, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Then Terry Francona is retiring. Although I have not heard the official R word thrown around with his name. All I know is that he will be leaving. What do you call it?
Cleveland. Yeah.
But the storyline is really, really cool. With Terry, his dad Tito played for Cleveland, and he grew up in the Cleveland dugout clubhouse with his dad, and then 10-year baseball career as a player, 23 years as a manager, World Series titles, etc. Amazing, absolutely amazing career. So
yeah,
if he's officially done, then it would be a really great time for him to go out. He's done it all.
would be, and I think he did a great job there. Like, he had teams that weren't, I don't want to say they were bad, but they weren't great teams, and I think he helped them overachieve because of his ability as a manager. And I know there's a lot of talk about baseball managers saying they don't matter, but I think Terry Francona did a lot to take that team to the next level, to take them to a step above where they were, and that's why they didn't make the playoffs this year. And why some years they just are borderline, because I don't feel like the teams that they've had have really been playoff teams, but he's gotten them on the doorstep or gotten them in because of his ability as a manager. I agree. I might be giving him too much credit, but I don't know.
No, I mean, he's the X factor. Very little else changed over the course of those years, other than the farm system kept pushing guys up to the bigs. So there is other things at play, but ultimately, and then let's not forget what he did in 2004 in Boston. Like, just no matter what,
over the hump. Yeah.
No matter what, this dude will go down in history as one of the greatest managers of all time for that reason. And
you're right.
He has more to it than that. Yeah. All right, let's talk more retirees. Miguel Cabrera, Miggy, this is it. He's done. And he recorded the final out of the Tigers game on Sunday, which I think is just extra Cinderella dust or moments or whatever you want to call it for the end of his career, which has been fabulous. They cut the outfield into a 24 with a crown on it, and
I thought that was awesome. I love when the grounds crew does stuff like that, because it's super unique, and I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how they do it.
I don't either.
Like, it's a complete mystery to me.
It is to
because
me
I don't know how they can do it and then like have it be like normal next week.
Yeah,
No, I don't know.
The other thing I read is that he will be assuming a front office role with Detroit. He has accepted a role as a special assistant to the president of baseball operations, and we'll see what happens. So Very excited for him. Yeah, it's a great lateral move to a guy with that much experience. And honestly, if it's only his influence and things like that, with whatever he might do, is helping sign guys or helping be an ambassador for the game.
I am curious if I was going to say I wonder if it'll be more of an ambassador role for the to the game, or if they'll like defer to him, use him as like a consultant. Like, what do you think of this guy, Miggy? I don't like him. Okay, then we won't bring him in. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think you're right. More of an ambassador role for the Tigers.
Yeah, that's how it feels like to me. Adam Wainwright is also retiring. He performed an acoustic set with his band of his own music after Saturday's game at Busch. That's really exciting. The team gifted him and his family a puppy.
Did you hear the story about why they did that?
No, go ahead.
Because his kids have always asked, they've always said they wanted a puppy, and he said, not until I retire. And so now that he's retired, as a happy retirement gift, the team gave the family a puppy.
Okay, that's the kind of storyline we need. Let's be honest. I thought it was cool. Is fantastic. We love it. Couple of question marks. We have 3 question marks on the retirement list that are of note at this point. Zach Greinke. Don't know what's going on there, but lots of the
I don't think we'll know. I don't think we'll know for sure with him until like it happens. Until he's like, "Oh, I retired, by the way."
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
When? Well, I filed the paperwork last week. I assume they'd tell you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure is how it's going to go with Greinke.
Yeah. With Greinke,
Zach,
right.
Why aren't you at spring training? I'm retired.
You do what?
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So everybody's playing likely the last game, likely the last appearance, that kind of thing is what's going thrown around with Greinke. Same with Andrew McCutchen. Same with Joey Votto. We expect that these guys are done, but there's still
I don't
no
know. I wouldn't be
official.
surprised if Andrew McCutchen came back, or at least tried
Just like
to.
we talked about, right?
He seems like he wants to, yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see with him. Joey Votto, I thought it was funny he got tossed
Yeah,
on
in the
Sunday.
first inning.
Yeah, and he got on Twitter X or whatever you want to call it today, and he apologized. He said, to the people who came to see me play today, I'm sorry I got ejected. I'm not allowed to yell at the umpire from the dugout, and it's just like it felt very Joey Votto to me. Like my
Right.
first thought before I saw the apology was like, is he trolling everybody by getting ejected?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it seems like something he would do. Is
Well,
this
and
his
even-
version of being abducted by aliens?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just going to say. The other thing I will say is even in the video, it's very like polite and gentle. And he's like
Well, he's Canadian after all.
apologizing. What?
Right. He's Canadian after all. So
It's right.
It's going to be very polite.
Speaking of Canadian, somebody was interviewing him. Did you see this from the?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
The video came out the other day, and they asked him, "So how would you describe the state of baseball in Canada?" And he says, "Well, first of all, it's the province of baseball. In Canada, it's the province of baseball is what we would call it." I was laughing. I couldn't. And the dude who was doing the interview, he didn't get it.
No,
he had no
not
idea.
even a little bit.
It went right over his head. Which is nothing against the guy doing the interview, but it was just such a Joey Votto moment to be teasing. And he's like, "Can I hold the microphone?" No. Okay, never mind.
I think the dude doing the interview was a little starstruck, to be honest with you. Like he wasn't sure what to think about everything that was going on. And I did like though that he said, "What's been your favorite thing to change this year?" He goes, "Pace of play." Again.
Yeah.
Pace of play. Again. Pace of play.
Yeah.
that he was emphatic about the pace of play. And I think that's great. Coming from a guy who loves to play chess.
Totally. Well, and it'll be interesting to see what baseball will turn into without a guy like Joey Votto, right? If he does officially retire. And who will hopefully fill that role and do a very, very good job of it.
You know what, though? Like, I feel like we haven't really seen his personality until the last couple of years. Like, I'm sure in Cincinnati they've gotten it, like they've gotten to see it and everything. But I don't feel like the rest of the country has gotten to see it until really last year.
Yeah.
He did an interview on Dan Patrick on the Dan Patrick show, and even DP was like, "Why are we talking to Joey Votto?" And he came on and he killed. He crushed it. He was hilarious. He was making perfectly timed jokes and everything's so snarky and so funny. And afterwards they're like, "That was really good." Really good. And I was like, man, I got a whole new respect for that guy. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we've seen a lot more of it since then. So I don't know if he just reached a point where he's like, I'm getting to the end. I got to figure out a way to have a second career,
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Well, okay. So let's move on. Kyle Tucker had a 30-30 season until he didn't. And this is one of the biggest news segments in all of baseball right now.
Before we get into this, though, Brig, it's funny, but
it's not funny.
But at the same time, though, I have to say, you and I, we dump on the Astros a lot, and players specific, but we both like Kyle Tucker a lot.
Really like Kyle Tucker a lot.
Hurts.
It does
internally, but we both really like him. Continue.
And this is not a joke, right? This is a really interesting situation. Kyle Tucker had a 30-30 season, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. He hit an inside the park home run against the D-backs. Initially, it was ruled a triple with an error, and then it was ruled a homer, and then it was ruled a triple with a fielder's choice. So, okay, that's a lot of back and forth initially.
It is a lot of back and forth. Did you see the play, Brig? How it went down?
No.
So he hit it was a frozen rope over the right fielder's head. He thought he could go up and catch it, but I think it had a little bit of ride on it, and so it didn't come down. I think it ended up hitting the base of the wall, but it looked like it probably would have short hopped or maybe hit just in front of the warning track there. And so I can see why he thought he could make a play on it. So he had to run from like playing a little bit shallow, maybe all the way back to the wall to get it. And all this while, Kyle Tucker is actually jogging around the bases.
Right.
So he gets to third, and the throw is brought in to the second baseman. The second baseman is just kind of standing there with it. So he takes off home.
Totally.
So it was all in the same play. It was not a continuous like sprint around the bases by any stretch of the imagination. There was kind of a pause at third base. So I can see why the official score would kind of be like, okay, like
Wait a minute.
maybe, I don't know. Like I can see why they kind of went back and forth on it. But I do
Yeah.
feel like it was a homer because the fielder's choice maybe was fielder indifference or defensive indifference. I don't know. It
I
was
don't know.
weird.
That's the question, though.
Yeah,
That's the question. Is like,
was
how do
really
you
odd.
score it? How do you score it? And I don't know that we have the answers.
I do think you scored as a home run though, because nobody
You
made
really
an
do.
error. I do. Nobody made an error.
Right.
And yeah, so like the throw home was not errant that he scored on. There was an errant throw to third base that he scored on. And the fact that
Nobody
he
muffed it
took
in the
home
outfield.
the fact that he just took home, like there was no fielder's choice to be made other than just holding on to the ball. If anything, that's just a brain fart on the second baseman's part, right?
Right. Right.
Whoever it
Right.
was, I don't know if it was Marte or somebody else who was in because the game didn't matter for the D-backs. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have given him a home run, but I'm curious, given everything that's at stake with Kyle Tucker's 30-30 season and other things, with fielders and errors and gold gloves and stuff like that, which has contractual impact.
Right.
Do official scores have too much power? Maybe.
Right. I think we've seen them in the past extend their authority a little too far. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, and that happens, I would say, almost every day. If they can take an error away and give the guy a hit instead, or vice versa, if they can take a hit away because they could justify giving an error to
Well, they have the power to
visiting
keep a
team.
no hitter alive
Exactly.
on a tough
That
play.
it's totally true. It's totally true. But this is
So,
not a small issue. Like I said, it comes up all the time, and the
mhm.
home field almost always gets the advantage when it comes to the scorekeeper.
Typically, yeah, the Mariners. I think it was Logan Gilbert lost a no hitter earlier this year on a play by Dylan Moore that was ruled a hit, an infield hit. It's like it was really close. Like I can see why they did, but at the same time, like it hit off the heel of his glove, could be ruled an error. So there was a
Right.
lot of debate among like Mariners fans with that. Like that should have been
Yeah.
an error on Dylan Moore, but
Well, baseball
it's
family,
interesting.
we need to know from you. Do Major League Baseball official scorekeepers have too much power, yes or no? Let us know in the comments. Let's talk about Seattle. Let's go back to Seattle since you just brought it up. And Brad, I want
Okay.
you to get on your seafoam soapbox here and hoist your trident and tell us why everyone is so frustrated. Obviously, they missed the playoffs, which is terribly frustrating, and I'm sad, and I'm not even an official Mariners fan. So, but I'm upset by the goings on. They did make their bed, and they do have to sleep in it. That's undeniable. But
Exactly.
we are not the only ones that feel that way. Why don't you take it away and tell everybody what happened?
Okay. First off, let's talk about some things that went on this weekend about why the Mariners are not in the playoffs. So Saturday, Luis Castillo was the starting pitcher for the Mariners. He went 2 2/3 what ended up being an elimination game for the Mariners. He gave up 5 hits, struck out 4, walked 5 with 4 earned runs.
Oh,
Now, not a good outing by any stretch of
That's
the
very bad.
imagination, especially for Luis Castillo. It was ugly. But I don't like to blame umpires or officials because you have to be able to rise above the inability of an official to be consistent to play well. But this is the problem that I had, and you could see that Luis Castillo had, was that the strike zone was changing from pitch to pitch. He would
Right.
throw a fastball for strike 1, and then he would throw a fastball for pitch 2. It was called ball 1 in the exact same spot.
Right.
It happened several times. And it was really frustrating. Like I said, he was visibly frustrated by this specific thing. Now, this is the thing that really bugged me about this, though, is that Sunday I saw a lot of big social media accounts, big Instagram accounts, clipping Luis Castillo's final pitch which was a fastball that went up and away, would have hit a right. It went up and away on a left-handed batter, would have hit a right-handed batter in the head. Way out of the zone, ball four. It was his last pitch of the outing. Scott Service comes out. As he's coming out of the dugout, you hear the fans booing.
Sure.
But the problem that I have is that these social media accounts are framing this that the fans were booing Castillo. They were not. They were booing a wildly inconsistent umpire. And the way that they clip it is there's like a second and a half where you can hear them starting to cheer Castillo as he crosses over the foul line into foul territory.
Okay.
Heading into the dugout. Like he always pumps his glove and then raises it up, kisses it and raises it up the air. And as he does that, that's when the fans cheer him every single time he comes out of the game, no matter what kind of outing he's had. And they did the exact same thing this time. And anybody who doesn't know how that goes, I can see why you'd be like, oh, they were booing their ace. No, booing the umpire, cheered their ace for a really tough outing where he was not getting any breaks and just had a hard time. Like he was hitting the corners, but he was off by maybe that much, Brig.
Right.
And for those of you can't see, that's like a centimeter. It's off the corners by like a centimeter. They could have gone either way. So that was ridiculous. That really chapped me and did not make for a good, I guess, final meaningful game of the season.
Right.
But then after the game, Cal Raleigh called out the front office for not spending this last offseason.
Here you go.
And Jewel and I on the Seattle Baseball Together podcast have talked a lot about this going into the season, that they basically punted on the offseason. When it was the winter meetings, they're like talking to anybody to make some deals. Like, oh, well, we're just whiteboarding right now. Excuse me, baking powder?
Baking powder, yeah.
I don't think that's what you do at the winter meetings. You try to make your team better, and they really didn't. So Cal Raleigh called them out and said, it's time to go out this offseason and spend the money. You see the kind of guys that other teams have gone out and gotten. Corey Seager took the Rangers to the playoffs, despite the fact that the Rangers went out and they paid for Jacob deGrom. They paid via trade for Max Scherzer. Both guys out. What do? You've got to have somebody step up and carry the load. And Corey Seager certainly did, to the point that he very well could take the MVP from Shohei Ohtani because he was healthy to the end of the season and got his team in the playoffs when it looked like they were completely melting down. You've got to go out and buy somebody like that. And I will say, Cal Raleigh apologized to his teammates. He said, I don't want it to sound like I'm downing the guys in the clubhouse, because he loves his teammates. You see that every single game. He loves everybody on that team. But I think he was voicing the frustration of the clubhouse that you've got to go get an impact bat for that lineup. You cannot expect, this is the issue I've had, you cannot platoon a third of your lineup every single day and expect to make the playoffs, much less win your division.
No way.
That is not what playoff teams do. They have way more consistency than that. Yeah. Go ahead and platoon one, maybe two spots. Like in the case of the Mariners, you could platoon second base, you could platoon left field, but you don't platoon DH. You do not platoon that spot, and they have
no. Right.
And so that was the biggest issue I had, and that's why when it comes down to it, I don't feel like the Mariners melted down in September. They outplayed who they were in July and August. Because the front office admitted at the trade deadline, we did not do a good job putting this team together. We should have done better. And the fact that they owned that, I feel comfortable saying, yeah, absolutely, you did not do a good job. I love the guys on the team, right? Mostly. Yeah. There are a couple guys who I'd see them in the roster, in the lineup day to day, and be like, why? Why is Mike Ford playing when Dominic Canzone has just as much power and hits for better average?
That's right.
Strikes out way less.
That's right.
It's absurd. Anyway, I'll step down off my teal soapbox and we can
move
on to Charlie Blackmon.
Charlie Blackmon, for those of you that don't know, we officially and affectionately refer to him as Chuck Nasty. Chuck Nasty just signed an extension, which I feel like is totally worth it.
I was a little surprised, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I mean, he's had such a quiet age 37 season. This was his age 37 season.
Yeah.
And it's been quiet after his heyday a few years ago, right? He was the spotlight guy.
He was.
Especially with what he wore to the red carpet.
Yeah, what was that?
All-Star game. Man.
It was 2019,
Yeah. It was amazing. If you haven't seen it, go look for it. But it's a 1-year, $13 million deal. It's an extension. This is probably going to be it.
I would think
for
so.
old Cup.
I think if he wanted to play 2 more years, he'd have signed a deal for 2 more years.
Yeah.
You know, because I
And
don't
they'd have let
see
him.
him going. I don't see him going anywhere else after this.
No, he'll retire a Rocky and he'll be done. And we'll be having the same conversation about him as we're having about Joey Votto.
And we'll ask the question about him in the Rockies Hall of Fame when we get to it.
We will. 365 days away from that teaser. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's talk about some changes being made to the minor league baseball logo. Here's the new one. Okay. Just in case you were wondering. This is also the color scheme. You will notice that it is very different from the previous one where the batter was shown at an angle from the ground up, sort of a 45-degree angle. I should have brought the other one over here, but I didn't. Probably because they're phasing it all the way out. But 45-degree angle from the ground up. Looks like he's swinging for the fences to pull a ball. And that is sort of what it looks like. He is flanked on either side by 2 stars, 4 total. This now is the Major League Baseball logo, essentially.
Minor league. Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's essentially the Major League Baseball logo. They have cropped it to weight it further on the left. The ball is no longer in view to the left of the batter facing. And now, because of the off-center weight to the opposite end, now we have room for the 4 stars. Here's the side-by-side. There's the Major League Baseball logo up against the new minor league baseball logo. You can see it's almost exactly the same, just the weight is shifted to the left to accommodate the stars. Here's the explanation major and minor league baseball gave. So they've included, this is all quoted, inclusion of the MLB batter icon signifies lasting connection between MLB and MiLB. Continued use of a 4-star motif represents levels of player progression and their ambition to become future stars, right? All 4 layers of the progression through the minor league system. I like that a lot. The duotone color in blue is rooted in baseball's heritage. And then the lighter hue represents the bright futures of a player on their journey. Darker blue helps the stars shine by increasing their contrast. Oh, okay. Here's what the old one looked like. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah.
See, got 45-degree angle. It looks like he's trying to pull a ball over the left field bleachers, into the left field bleachers. 4 stars. It's red and blue. Now it's blue and blue. 4 stars. Same batter icon. That's it. Baseball family, what do you think?
What do you think, Brig?
I mean, I have a many layered opinion. So part 1, is this going to affect my life? No, right?
Right.
Not at all. So who cares? Part 2 is, was there something wrong with the old logo? Absolutely not.
I really liked the old one.
Right.
A lot.
Is this a step down? Maybe.
Yes.
Is it enough of a step down to be super upset about it? No.
You're right.
If they had kept the red and blue, it would have improved the new logo, I think.
I think it would have, but I think one of the reasons they didn't was I don't think they wanted it to be quite so close.
Exactly.
The Major League Baseball logo, I think, is the real reason behind that.
Yep, I agree. But if that's the mentality, then why are we getting as close as possible without getting as close as possible? Right? Like,
yeah, I
know. Why can't we just keep
on the back of a hat? It's going to be team colors anyway.
Yeah, it is.
So,
yeah, it is. I don't get it. I mean, okay. This to me, okay. I'm going to segue here.
Okay.
I'm going to tie this all together. In the military, it's very common for decisions to be made that alter the landscape of the culture or of the rules or of certain policies or procedural changes, whatever, right? And 9 times out of 10, the socially determined opinion, right? The socially accepted opinion as to why is so somebody can get a bullet point on their evaluation report at the top, right? So somebody can say, look at, I left my mark on the unit or on the Army itself or on the whatever. That's why uniform changes get, a lot of times uniform changes get chalked up to this. New fitness protocols get chalked up to this because somebody worked their way high enough to a decision-making position and then said, see, I did that. And instead of it being a less tangible thing they can point to,
Yeah,
or
makes sense.
they can say, look at it, right? That's
Yeah.
how this feels to me. This feels like a completely unnecessary change that affects nobody at all and allows somebody somewhere to flex their one muscle and prove that they have some authority or left their mark in some way, and the rest of it is just dumb.
I think you're spot on with that.
That's
Yeah,
how I
because
think
I
this
remember
is.
when I was looking for jobs before I got the one that I had, like a lot of companies were like, show us some statistics for some of the. No, I'm not going to do
Right.
that.
Right.
Because it's subjective. So no. But yeah,
Right.
I could see why that would fit into somebody's resume. I think you're right.
So I think that's what this is. I left my mark on Major
Yeah.
League Baseball.
Yeah,
Before I
think you're right.
left, I was whatever. Yeah.
This is what I did. Yeah.
Stupidness. All right, let's move on. The National Football League. Oh, yeah, I just said that. The National Football League had their Pixar Fun Day broadcast, and the reason it's relevant will become clear very soon. But before we talk about that, I have to tell you what this was. Brad, will you pull it up?
Yeah.
It was
First off, it was super cool, by the way.
Right.
Like above all else.
Yeah. So this is what it was. They put it was an animated version of the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Atlanta Falcons game in London. And it was broadcast from Andy's room from Pixar and the Toy Story series from Andy's room. So it was super fun, super cool to see the side-by-side footage of the game and to see how well the motion capture worked and to have it in an animated way that's accessible to a new generation of fans. That do you need to hit that harder?
That's the one. Yeah, so I actually sat down. I made it a point to watch this morning. In fact, my son was watching the Mario movie this morning, and I was like, "Hey, the Pixar game's on." He's like, "Oh," he turned the movie off and went over to Disney Plus to watch the game because because we've been talking about it. He's like, "That's really cool," and it was really cool. It was awesome. Yeah. And so I was sitting there watching this. I was like, "Man, could like MLB do this with MLB the Show animation, or again with Pixar animation?" And I was like, it'd be easy to do with the players, because if you can do it with football players, you can do it with baseball players. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
But my only question was the ball.
Right.
Because you have like a limited number of footballs that you use, but you use what feels like an infinite number of baseballs in a game.
Yeah. Right.
Because you could tell that it was obviously that they had some kind of motion capture device on the football because of the way that it was operating, the way that it was working. And it was one thing I loved was that they used the claw to drop the ball in between plays.
That's
and the sky
referees.
Yeah, and the sky cam was the aliens on the claw with holding a camera. it was super cool. It was a ton of fun. But I would love to see baseball do this, figure out a way to do it, because my son, who does not like to sit and watch sports, sat and watched like an entire quarter. He doesn't like. It's not that he doesn't like sports. He loves sports. He loves to play them, but he just doesn't have the attention span to sit and watch an entire game. So he doesn't. Right?
Especially not in the living room. Right.
Right.
At the game, it's different. But
yeah, the game it's different. But on TV, it doesn't have harder. It. But he had it today to sit and watch an entire quarter of Pixar football as a 9-year-old.
It's incredible.
So
what a stroke of brilliance!
Absolutely. Between this and the Nickelodeon broadcast, what was it last year?
Last year, yeah.
Major League Baseball needs to keep up, man.
We are
figure out how
behind.
to get ahead of it, because it was super cool. Like I said, to see how it worked and how well it worked, blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind.
It's really cool. And the point is, you're right. Major League Baseball has got to pull their head out and figure something else out, because this is all no-brainer stuff.
Right.
Okay, couple things last before we take our break. First, we have got to take just 1 minute and talk about Javi Baez and Tim Anderson. Both of them, of all the qualifying hitters in the league this year, of which there were 134, Brad, there were 134 qualifying hitters, and their OPSs got ranked. Okay. Tim Anderson's OPS was 582. Javi Baez OPS this season, 592. Of the 134 qualifying players, Tim Anderson came in at 133. Javi Baez came in at 134. Brad, I know OPS isn't the end-all be-all statistic. I got it.
But it's a pretty significant stat.
But it is not one you can ignore. You just can't ignore it.
Well, and it's funny because, like, both guys were being pushed as, I mean, Baez has been pushed as like a star for a long time. Yes, he had a couple of really good years with the Cubs, and Tim Anderson will always have the moment of hitting the walk-off into the corn for the Field of Dreams game. Absolutely. But it feels like that's it for these dudes. You know, like Tim Anderson did pretty well in the World Baseball Classic, but then he came into this season just laid an egg. And I wonder how much of it was just like toxic culture in the clubhouse, just didn't want to be there. He was on and off the IL a lot this year with injuries.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love to see Tim Anderson get back to his like prime, right? But he even said, he's like, I'm unfortunately getting to be one of the older players, so I know what happens to shortstops. They get moved to second base. If that's what happens, that's what happens. I'll do it. He's like, I'd prefer to play short, but if I got to move, I'll move because I want to keep playing the game.
Yeah.
Which is he'll do whatever it takes. From a guy who specifically said baseball is a boring sport.
Yeah. Right. Now, that's for a different moment. Brad, give us the championship fantasy updates, and then we'll take a break.
Our championship matchup came down to Denise, Grace Under Fire, and Jewel, Big League Chupacabra. Denise won 15-14 to 13-17 by an almost whopping 200 points. Her top performer and probably the MVP of the league was Freddie Freeman with 167 points, and Jules was Ryan O'Hearn of the Orioles with 110 points. Congrats to Denise. Back-to-back Baseball Together podcast, Fantasy Baseball League champion. Singular, because she's the only one who's ever been a champion of the league.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely. So there we go. That wraps up fantasy baseball. But before we go to break, let me tell you about Versus Game. Baseball family, we're always asking what you think about topics we bring up on the show. Now you have a quick and easy way to share your thoughts with us. We partnered with Versus Game to bring you games where you can make actual real money from participating in polls and trivia. That's right. If you're on the winning side of a poll or get a trivia question right, you can win and earn real money.
Wern.
Yeah, Wern. That's what it's gonna be from now. They're gonna Wern it, Brig. You can play for free, or you can buy ticket bundles to win more prizes and money faster. And you can play against other listeners and Versus Game users. So head to btpod.onversus.com on your mobile browser to sign up and play our polls and trivia games. Again, that is btpod.onversus.com to sign up and play Versus Game with us. And we will take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to hit you with the playoff primer. Welcome back, baseball family. Before we get into our playoff primer, we have to tell you about our newest. We have another new partner, if you can believe it. Because baseball family, sports betting is rapidly has rapidly risen in popularity. We want to connect you with an opportunity to get started or get ahead like we have. Having multiple sportsbook accounts is the simplest way to maximize your profits, and there has never been a better time to sign up than now. When you visit our page, signupexpert.com/baseball, that's right, we are baseball, you'll be connected to all the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. All these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users. This includes promos and things like that. And when you register through the Baseball Together link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one. When you use multiple sportsbooks, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is key to successful sports betting. I can tell you a thing or two about that. If you want to take advantage of these benefits and support the show, sign up for your next sportsbook at signupexpert.com/baseball. As always, there's a link in the episode description below. Now, baseball family, if you're ready for this, I know I am. So ready for the playoffs. I've gone through and done my morning, Brig.
You're through your morning period already?
I think I subconsciously wore black today. Like, didn't even think about it. The Seahawks played on Monday Night Football, and I reached into my closet and I grabbed my black T-shirt instead of my Bobby Wagner jersey. Just like, and by the time I realized that that's what I was wearing instead, I was like, okay, I'm at peace with this. We can move on to the playoffs now. So,
well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So there you go. But before we can get to the playoff primer, though, Brig, we have to play the obligatory playoff primer sounder.
Playoff primer.
I told you I was going to keep it and play it every single year, and we will play it until the end of time.
Oh, man. That is like 5 years old.
Something like that. So what we're going to do, for those of you who are new to the Playoff Primer on the Baseball Together podcast, we're going to go through the wild card games first. We're going to talk about the matches, matchups, kind of do like a tail of the tape, see who has the upper hand. And then we'll go on through. We'll talk about the teams that have the buys, and then we will share our meaningless predictions for the playoffs. So, Brig, let's start with the first game on Tuesday. The Rangers at the Rays. This game starts at 3:08 p.m. Eastern time. Here they are.
Yeah.
So I'll run down the Rangers if you want to run down the Rays. How's that sound? Okay. So the Rangers are 90-72. That is their regular season record. They scored 881 runs, hit 233 home runs, stole 79 bases, have a team batting average of 263, a team OPS of 790. Drew 599 walks, struck out 1,416 times collectively. Then their pitching staff has a team ERA of 4.28, and they are plus 165 in their run differential. This is a team that looked like it was going to run away with the division, be far and away the absolute best offense in the league. And not to say they're not one of the top 5, right? I think they finished top 3.
Totally.
Finish the season, so still a great offense.
Sleep on them, yeah,
right, yeah, for sure. Like it is a formidable offense, but they have certainly cooled down from what they were earlier in the season. So I think that they've kind of got their work cut out for them going up against the Rays. When if this matchup had happened in June, I think it would have been a blowout.
Yeah. Well, especially given what the Rays did in June. But
right.
Let's talk about what the Rays did collectively. Regular season, they recorded 99 wins, 63 losses. Collectively, 860 total runs, 230 team home runs. As a unit, they stole 160 bags. That's awesome. The collective batting average, 260, OPS, 776. They worked 514 walks, struck out 1,420 times. Their pitching staffs have a combined ERA of 3.86, and the run differential is plus 195.
The Rays are an interesting team to me. So those 160 stolen bases, to me, come a lot off of their ability to kind of reach it. And it's not so much like straight stolen base, but the wreak havoc stolen base, you know? leaving early, causing the pitcher to like throwing off the pitcher's rhythm, things like that. And Kevin Cash is such a good manager. He sees things where like, hey, the pitcher checks you once and then goes home 3 seconds later. And it's easy to track that now with the pitch clock because you can say, okay, he checked 1, 2, 3. Oh, you can go on second 2 because he's not going to come over.
Well, and not only that, but the number of disengagements that a pitcher has allowed has impacted the gamesmanship on the base paths.
Absolutely.
So, given the situation, whatever it may be, you might literally just, not need to worry about him coming after you at all. And that is a factor. I'm not sure it accounts for a tremendous amount of stolen bases this year, but it is. I think it's more than negligible.
Mm-hmm. I do think that pitchers keep it in the back of their mind, though, because it's like they're like, I don't want to have a second disengagement because then I'm kind of locked,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it is really interesting, but I think we'll talk more about that when we wrap up the season in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, that is the Rangers and the Rays. Your second wild card series is the Blue Jays at the Twins. This game will be at 4:38 p.m. Eastern time. And as a reminder, these games are played 3 in a row. The Rays, Twins, Brewers, and Phillies all have home field, so all 3 games, if necessary, will be played at their home parks. They will not travel to the other team's park. They want to get these knocked out, yet give these teams a fair shake by not having them one and done after having earned a playoff spot.
Correct.
So, all right, Brig, why don't you tell us about the Twins, and I'll tell them about the Blue Jays.
All right, so tail of the tape on the Twins. They went 87-75 in the regular season, scored 778 runs, 233 homers, 86 swiped bags, 243 collective batting average, a 753 OPS, 594 walks they were able to work, 1,654 strikeouts. Like the pitching staffs collectively 3.87 and a plus 119 run differential in Minnesota.
Those home runs were startling to me. That's 3rd in the big leagues.
Yeah. It's a lot more than you would think.
Yeah, behind obviously the Braves and then 16 behind the Dodgers.
Yeah. And honestly, never mind. We'll talk about that. But yes, I agree with you.
It's astonishing.
Getting ahead of ourselves.
We are. Okay. On to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, 89 wins, 73 losses, scored a total of 746 runs, hit 188 home runs. I would have expected that number to be higher.
See, that's what I was going to say.
Stole 99 bases, 256 team batting average. I think Alejandro Kirk bumps that up quite a bit. 746 OPS, 550 walks, 1303 for strikeouts, team ERA of 3.78 and a run differential plus 75. It's really crazy seeing these teams side by side like this. And I know it's all about how they're going to match up head to head.
Yeah, it is. But
like right here, it's like, wow, that's kind of a no-brainer.
It feels like a no-brainer, but the problem is that Toronto has that X factor that works in their favor. And Minnesota has the X factor that would, like, when it's not there, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they both have that. I guess I don't know. I'm speaking out of both sides of my hat there, but basically, what I was saying, the same thing.
But
that problem.
That's like heads I win, tails you lose. The thing about the Blue Jays that gets me is the fact that like you legitimately don't know who you're going to get from day to day with them. Like the Twins, you kind of have it figured out. Like they were pretty even for most of the year, but I feel like the Blue Jays though, it's like one week they were world beaters, and the next year they were getting beat down by everybody. So. It's really interesting to see which team. It'll be really interesting to see which team shows up. I'm curious if the same team that lost in the wild card round last year will show up.
Right,
because that didn't go well for them. For me, very well. But.
For you, you're very happy.
All right, our third game, we have the Diamondbacks at the Brewers. This game is at 7:08 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. I'll start with the Brewers, Brig.
Do it.
That yellow is tough. Is that 92? And that's 92-70. They had a 92-70 record. 728 runs, 165 home runs, 129 stolen bases, 240 team batting average, 705 OPS, 591 walks, 1,412 strikeouts as a team, 3.71 collective ERA, and a run differential of 81. Um, they're one of those really interesting teams that was a really quiet 92.
That's what I feel exactly the same way. And they are quietly steady. Though that is no longer a surprise. That's in their MO for the last 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What is surprising to me is that I still retain very little confidence in their abilities to go deep, despite what we see as a very steady, consistent winning culture, very steady, consistent winning record, a very steady, consistent everything. And we'll get into it later with predictions, but I think that is going to translate into a very steady, consistent opportunity to lose early in the playoffs.
It has been so
That's
far,
right?
Yeah,
I think
you're
we're
not
going to get
wrong.
more of the same. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe that's what gets Craig Counsell out the door. I don't know.
yeah. Craig Cancel's going to end up in New York. Don't worry, he's taking Buck Showalter's job. Buck's already gone.
Your
All right,
dominoes are falling into place, Brig.
they are. All right, let's go through the tail of the tape for the Arizona Diamondbacks because they are super fascinating. So their regular season record, 84-78. Home and away splits were also interesting to look at. You should go look at those. Runs, 746. Home runs, 166. Stolen bases, 166. That's not a typo. I double checked. They hit 166 bombs and they swiped 166 bags. It was fabulous. Team batting average 250, OPS 730. They worked 540 walks. They struck out 1,247 times. Team's ERA is 4.47. This is the most interesting part. Their run differential is minus 15, and they continue to win. It's fascinating and fun. It's just plain fun.
Okay, so I've got some interesting things here to add to this, Brig, because you mentioned their home and away split, so I had to look.
Yeah,
I had to
had
see.
to.
So 43-38 at home, 41-40 on the road.
Right.
That's insane. That's so close.
They're just consistent. We talk about consistency, and they're consistent. They just are, and it's interesting because they're also electric. Often,
they have the X factor in Corbin Carroll.
The Brewers are consistent and boring. They're consistent and steady, and it's not working very well. But the D-backs are consistent.
We do need to address the fact they don't have Corbin Burns the rest of the way, at least for the first round. Possibly
you're right.
The rest
at least for the wild card, Corbin Burns is out.
Yeah, but so I found another interesting nugget looking at this with the D-backs. Okay, 1-run games. Did you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Their record 21-21. 161 runs scored, 161 runs allowed in 1-run games.
You see what I'm saying? It makes no sense.
Coin flip with the Diamondbacks.
We did not have room to put all that information on the graphic, but yeah, that is exactly it.
And 18-20 in blowouts, which Baseball Reference classifies as 5 runs or more. You don't know what this team's gonna do.
No, but that's not true. You don't know who's going to come out on top of the scorecards, but you do know it's going to be fun experiencing it.
It is going to be a fun experience, yeah. Bizarre.
Isn't that wild?
It's absolutely bizarre. I love it. Everything about it. Baseball's weird.
Wild card. That's baseball, Susan, right?
That's right. Yeah. All right. Our last wild card series, we have the Marlins at the Phillies. Game 1 is at 8:08 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. First off, I'm curious why this is the last game.
Yeah. 2
East Coast teams playing in this series. Why on earth are they playing at 8 p.m. Eastern time? For me, it's no big deal. That game will be over by the time kids go to bed. But East Coast makes no sense. Put them at 3.
Or even at like a 6 or a 7.
Yes. Yeah, swap them and the Brewers.
Yeah. I don't know. It makes no sense, but whatever.
I don't know. Anyway. All right.
Here's Miami.
Marlins.
Yeah, here's Miami. 84-77 in the regular season. They scored 668 runs, 166, again, not a typo,
That's
166
crazy.
home runs, 86 stolen bases. Batting average across the team is 259. Team's OPS is 722. They were able to work 430 walks this season. They struck out 1,288 times. Team's ERA is at 4.22, and run differential is negative 56, especially when Luis Ariz takes a day off.
Yeah, the batting average sure drops when he takes a day off too.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So the Phillies are 90-72. Scored 796 total runs, hit 220 home runs. I think Kyle Schwarber hit a quarter of those.
Yeah.
Stolen bases 141, 256 batting average, 756 OPS, 539 walks, struck out 1,481 times. I think a quarter of those were Kyle Schwarber as well. And
You got it right.
team ERA of 4.02, run differential of plus 81. Now, that ERA, I know it's only 0.2 points, right?
Right.
But to me, it's going to be a really big deal in this series.
It is going to be a huge deal. Especially, and I know Sandy hasn't been at his best all season long.
Well, he's not going to be pitching.
That's what I mean. Even with his absence, his presence at his lesser self is still better than no Sandy Alcantara. Right. I think.
I think you're right too.
Yeah, I don't know.
There is some level of intimidation when that dude's on the mound that you don't get from other guys. But they have a couple of really good young pitchers on that staff. Yeah. So that can help.
And they're stepping up. Right? It's the way it should be.
Yep. All right. So those are your wild card series. We're going to get into the bye round teams next. So let's start first with the Astros, who snuck in and won the AL West.
Wow.
You're welcome, by the way, on behalf of the Seattle Mariners, Houston, because I can't remember if I said it here or not, but I was like, and I can't remember if I texted you, but I was kind of like, as much as I would love the Mariners to go out on a winning note, it's almost like just roll over and do a solid for the Rangers and let them win the division so Houston doesn't win it.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to hear Alex Bregman say whatever he said. But anyway.
Yeah.
So these are your... What's that?
I said you talk about them some more.
I'm gonna. So your Houston Astros finished the season 90-72 with 827 runs scored, 222 home runs, 107 stolen bases, a 259 team batting average, 768 OPS, 550 walks, 1,241 strikeouts, a team ERA of 3.94, and a run differential of plus 129. Framber Valdez did a lot to help that team ERA, and having Justin Verlander come in also helped that team ERA a lot in the last couple months.
No doubt.
All right, Brig, let's move on over to the Dodgers. Why don't you tell us about the Dodgers?
The Dodgers of Los Angeles. Okay. Sometimes it's fun just to say that twice. All right. Now we got the church giggles. All right, they won 100 games for the 700th year in a row. They only lost 62. They scored 906 total runs, 249 home runs as a team. They stole 105 bags. Collective batting averages at 257. OPS as a team 795. They worked 644 walks, struck out 1,359 times. The team's ERA is 4.06, and the run differential is plus 207. Their fun differential is negative 735.
Yeah. Yep. 207 is a big number. Like,
it's huge.
A really big number. And you're right with that fun differential. It's so weird because they feel so business-like going out there that you'd think that they would be a lot of fun guys like Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Kike Hernandez is a fun guy, right?
Yeah.
But they're not.
It doesn't transfer. It doesn't translate over to the fans, I don't feel like.
No. At least the casual fan, and I won't even say casual
Sure.
fan, the non-Dodger fan. I'm sure Dodger fans love these guys, but
Yeah. But if you don't, if you're
watching a
not
Dodger
in
game,
LA, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't come across. I don't know.
yeah, it's odd. It's very strange. I think you were spot on with that negative fun differential. Makes perfect sense. Makes pennies,
Well,
Brig, if you will.
thank you.
All right,
Why
I'm
don't
going
you
to move
tell us
on.
about the Baltimore Orioles?
The Oreos. The Baltimore Oreos. I used to think that's what they were a long time ago.
We
like
all
last
did.
week.
Okay, let's.
Okay. Anyway, the Orioles finished the season 101 wins, 61 losses, 807 runs, scored 183 home runs, 114 stolen bases. That seems low, I'll be honest with you.
Fact.
255 team batting average, 742 team OPS, 512 walks drawn, 1,370 strikeouts, 3.89 team ERA. That's how you win championships, Brig, right there. And a plus 129 run differential. That team ERA is smoking.
It is smoking. And it's going to be debilitating for everybody else.
It is going to be really frustrating. And it's the Adley Rutschman factor. That's one of the things. Is if I'm assuming he's calling games, and if that's the case, everything he's done for this pitching staff to bring them up to the next level. But Brig, they will not have Felix Bautista.
I know.
They're closer.
I know. But I am not as worried about it as everyone else seems to be. I'm worried, or I'm concerned. I wished it were different, but I still don't think it will be the thing that, it won't be the nail in their coffin. Do you?
Yeah, I think you could be right with that, because I think that their bullpen could be deep enough that it won't be a problem.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You're right on that.
We'll see, and you'll find out in a minute when we tell you what our brackets look like. So,
yeah,
Brad, kick us over to the Braves, and I'll tell us the tale of the tape with the Bravesies. Your Atlanta Braves, they won 100,000 games, and they only lost 5. No, that's how it feels, though. It's like an inevitability. They feel like an inevitability.
They're
And whether
Thanos.
whether they are or aren't, that's how it feels. You just have to acknowledge that that's how it feels. Okay, they won 104 games. They lost 58. They produced 947 runs, 307 home runs, 132 stolen bases. All what did you say? A third of those?
Half of more than half of those were Acuña's.
Yeah,
more.
Yeah,
he had 73 bags.
Who cares about math, Brad? But thanks. So the team batting average is at 276, OPS 845. They worked 538. Can we just pause at that 845? Okay, thanks. They worked 538 walks, 1,289 strikeouts at the plate. Their team's ERA sits at 4.14. And they have a run differential of plus 231, which might as well be 2,031. And
that's what I was going to say. You can get away with a 4.14 ERA, which is still pretty good for a team ERA.
It's not bad at all.
Plus 231.
Here's the other thing. This team's fun differential is also plus 2,031.
I agree with you on that.
And that is super clear.
Mm-hmm. It is crazy, because Matt Olson finished with 53 home runs.
Yeah,
that is still
52
more,
or 53, something like that.
Yeah, that's still more than the next team in line.
Oh yeah,
which was, if you give me a second, I'll have it.
Okay,
that was the Dodgers with 249.
Right,
still more than what they had.
It's insane.
That is staggering. That is so many home runs that this team, top to bottom, I think 1 through 5 all had 30 plus home runs, at least 1 through 4.
1 through 4 for sure.
Yeah. I don't know who is teaching hitting in Atlanta.
I don't know either.
But
It's electric, though.
Yeah.
Dude,
It really
I've
is.
said this before, but the combination of Acuna Albies is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was it last week we said I called it Stockton to Malone? Like
Yeah.
it's like it's never off.
Right. You know what's coming. You
Really
still
cool.
can't stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right, Brad.
Before we get out of here, let's do our meaningless predictions because we have to.
Okay. I'm going to pull up the bracket so everybody knows what it looks like. The 2023 postseason on your American League side, which is the left-hand side of the screen. We've got the Jays at the Twins, and then the Rangers at the Rays, and then the winners of those will advance. And Brad, do you want to tell them your meaningless predictions, or do you want me to tell them mine first?
I'll go with mine. So between the Twins, do we want to go just based on the rounds that we've highlighted so far? Like you talked about that wild card round. Do we just want to stop there for now?
No, let's do it all. Let's do it all
Okay.
now.
All right. I'll pull mine up then.
Okay, pull up your.
Okay.
There you go.
So in that first round, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that between the the Blue Jays and the Twins, I have the Twins winning that one and advancing. And then your other wild card series between the Rays and the Rangers, I have the Rays winning that one and advancing and playing the Orioles. We'll stay on the American League side. So the Twins will advance and play the Astros. The Astros I have winning that one. I don't love it, but they're playing. I don't know. It's weird because to say they're playing well right now is based solely off of their last two series. That they won 5 of their last 6 games, but then they also got swept by the Royals right before that.
Yeah.
And lost 5 of 6 against the Orioles in September. So I don't know.
I don't know.
But I think there is something to be said for that many guys on that team having that much playoff experience and being the defending world champs.
There you go. I agree.
Okay, so there's that. And then on the other side of the American League, I have got the Orioles beating the Rays. I think that the Rays having to go deeper into their rotation against the Rangers because I feel like that's going to be a 3-game series. Rays are going to be coming into the Orioles series with the back end of their rotation. The Orioles will be able to get out and jump out to an early series lead, and that's going to be all she wrote as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So then I've got the Orioles and the Astros playing in the American League Championship Series. And just because they're the better team, top to bottom, I shouldn't say top to bottom, but because they played like the better team this year, I'm going to go with the Orioles going to the World Series and beating the Astros in the American League Championship Series.
Nice.
Let's go through your American League real quick, Brig.
Let's go through my American League. So in your wild card round, I actually have Toronto beating Minnesota. And then they go on to play Houston. Houston beats Toronto to advance to the ALCS. On your other end of the American League card, I've got Texas beating Tampa Bay in the wild card. And then advancing to get walloped by the Orioles in the ALDS. That puts me, the Houston Astros are going to play the Baltimore Orioles in the ALCS, and Baltimore is going to win the ALCS and advance to, excuse me, Brad, you didn't say it right.
Oh, you're right.
World Series.
I didn't say it right. I apologize.
It's okay.
My bad. Okay, over to the National League. The first wild card series, the D-backs and the Brewers. I'm going to go with the D-backs on that one. Part of that is missing Corbin Burns. Part of that is the fact that, to me, the D-backs are a little bit more unpredictable than the Brewers. As far as, like, if you get them on the base pass, you don't know what Corbin Carroll is going to do, right? Like, he's going to be the X factor in that series, I feel like. And if he can have a good series, the Diamondbacks are going to advance. So I've got the Diamondbacks advancing over the Brewers. The Phillies and the Marlins. The Marlins did some work to shore up that pitching staff at the trade deadline, right? But like you said, no Sandy. The bullpen has been a weakness for a lot of the year, and they're somewhat depleted with some injuries late in the season. I don't think they can overcome the bats of the Phillies. It'll be a slugfest. I think these games are going to be high scoring, but I think when it comes down to it in the end, the Phillies pitching will hold off the last ditch efforts of the Marlins, and they'll win out that series. So then with the D-backs advancing, I've got them going up against the Dodgers. Dodgers are just going to be the better team there, just top to bottom. They're just gonna beat the Diamondbacks, and then the Phillies and the Braves. The Braves are not going to be having any of what happened last year.
No,
zero of it.
Yeah,
the Phillies will not beat the Braves again. In fact, the Phillies might just get pounded into the ground by the Braves this year. So Braves advance to the NLCS against the Dodgers. And we saw what happened when the Braves and Dodgers played this year. And I know it was the regular season and the postseason is a different animal, but I feel like the Braves really are just that much better. The Dodgers are somewhat depleted in pitching, and I think it's going to catch up to them eventually. And who knows, it might catch up to them in the division series, right, against the D-backs.
Yeah, it could, yeah.
But I don't think they get out of the championship series, and I got the Braves going back to the World Series against the Orioles, and I will save my pick for after Brig does his National League side.
On the National League side, I'll start at the top. The Diamondbacks, they're going to beat the Brew Crew for all the reasons Brad already said, and we illustrated everything earlier. Then they're going to go on to play LA. And LA, as Brad said, is just a better team. They also have better tacos, and they're going to kick the crap.
I don't know about the taco bit there, Brig.
Have you ever? Okay, you have had both. I'm just trying to be inflammatory.
It's working.
Good. So the LA Dodgers are going to beat the Diamondbacks. It's going to be a clean victory. It won't be anything flashy. They will just steadily move through that series, and the Diamondbacks will have to go home. And then that puts Los Angeles advancing to the NLCS. On the other side of the card, I've got Miami also being cleanly swept off the board by Philly. I don't think it's going to be a tremendous battle. They might be high scoring, but it's not going to be a fight. And I think Philly is pretty much going to take it pretty clean. They might not even need to go the third game. Then the Phillies advance to play the Braves, and you nailed it, man. This is going to be like, we might have to call the UFC and get Dana White over here to officiate and, make sure it's all clean because this is not.
He's already dead.
Yes, it's not going to be pretty. But it will be fun if you're a Braves fan. It will be fun. It won't,
if you're a Braves fan.
It won't be fun if you're a Phillies fan. So I'm sorry, but this is just how I feel. And then the Braves advance to play the Dodgers in the NLCS. The Dodgers lose, and I'm going to say summarily. They're going to lose pretty cleanly. And then the Braves advance to play the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series.
I missed it again. Dang it.
Yeah, you did.
Shoot. All right. So let's go back. If you're watching on YouTube, you already saw. But I'm going to go through real quick and tell you who I have winning the World Series.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
And this year I have the Baltimore Orioles. I texted Brig my pick so he could put together this fun graphic. And after I put down the Orioles, I said, yikes, how'd I get here?
Because how did that happen?
Yeah, how'd that happen? That's just like putting together my March Madness bracket. I never know. But I'll be honest with you. I've liked the Orioles all year long.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they necessarily had what it took to win the division. They showed they absolutely did, have been steady the entire year. I think that they continue to be steady through the playoffs, through the World Series. And I think they can get it done. And I think another reason is my bias of wanting a team that hasn't won one to win one.
Yeah. You have a 10-year moratorium, mandatory.
Yeah, I have a 10-year moratorium. If you won a World Series in the last decade, I will not cheer for you in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
it's emotional moratorium for Brad.
Yeah, sorry, pretty much everybody who's in the playoffs right now.
But, yeah.
But also not sorry at the same time.
Right.
So I've got the Oreos winning the World Series.
Yeah, you're such a trooper. All right, so going back through the championship series on the American League side, I've got Houston losing to Baltimore. On the National League side, I've got LA losing to Atlanta. And ultimately, I believe that Atlanta is going to win this year's World Series. And there's no way around it. I think that not only do they feel inevitable, but they are. And it has been well-deserved, well-earned. All the evidence points in this direction. Okay, it's a little bit of a chalk line. Leave me alone. But at the same time, I don't know how you could say that it doesn't feel inevitable. I don't understand.
It
So
does,
you
but
can
this is
say
the
you
thing, though,
don't
is that
want it to be,
a lot of
and it's
this is
baseball.
the thing that's crazy, though, Brig, is that there have been a lot of teams that have felt inevitable,
I
and
know.
they stumble. They fall flat on their faces. The Seattle Mariners are the first ones to come to mind, 116 wins, and they
Yeah.
lost to the Yankees in the ALCS 4-1.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like
And,
that.
and
I told my parents in September, I said, you're going to be paying for a subscription to Sports Illustrated come October because the Mariners are winning the World Series and I need all the stuff.
yeah, all the stuff.
Right?
Yeah,
Like I had my mom, I was like, get your credit card ready because this is what's happening. This is what we're doing this year.
Awesome. No, I'm not saying it is inevitable. I'm saying it feels inevitable.
Right, and
saying
I'm not saying that, and I shouldn't say there have been other teams that were inevitable. There were other teams that felt inevitable.
right. But I do think that I'm gonna let the seeming inevitability take my vote. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bank on it this year.
Is there any bit of you that thinks that feeling of inevitability might be the fact that you live in Braves country? Does that have anything to do with it, or is it just that
That's a
they've
good
been so
question.
good all year long?
I don't think so. I think it's just that they're just dominant. But it could be a location bias or whatever we're gonna call it. Recency. It's not recency, but some kind of logical bias.
Recently, they've been fantastic. So,
Yeah, that's true.
except for the last week of the
I
season, they
will
didn't
say,
have a good last week for whatever reason.
I will say, for the record, I want Baltimore to win it all. Like if I was gonna put my hopes and dreams on the table and not my thoughts and feelings, then I would definitely put Baltimore at the top. I want them to win the whole thing. I'm super all in on the Orioles right now. I started saying it last year. It has come true. I predicted the Rangers would start to come through, and that's coming around. It's really all very interesting, but I just love Baltimore. I love what they got going on.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so we did team shopping a couple weeks ago, and we did our shopping around, and I've landed, for the record, on the Orioles and the Diamondbacks. The Orioles because I love watching that team. I like a lot of guys on that team, and also the D-backs because I'm local. So I feel like I kind of have to. If the Mariners aren't in, I feel like I have to cheer for the local team, especially since they're not a division rival.
Right. I have a very similar relationship to the Braves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
but baseball family, let us know who you have winning the World Series.
yes.
And the other thing I want to know is, will the winning team, will the World Series winner represent the National League or the American League? I'm curious about that as well. Who you think will win? Head over to Versus Game, in fact, and let us know because we're going to put that up on there. It's probably already there if you're listening to this because I'm going to be putting it there very shortly after we finish recording. So,
and just so you know, if you need it really quick, it's btpod.onversus.com for the Versus Game. And your mobile browser is the best way to do that, but it's btpod.onversus.com.
Perfect. Exactly right. But baseball family, thank you so much for joining us for this year's
Playoff Primer.
Go enjoy the playoffs, and we'll catch you Thursday night when we go live.